You spoke about vitamin D and these other things that you're talking about health, prayer, sleep, diet, exercise are the popular things that are spoken about. From my research, I've discovered something that is very unpopular, but I would say just as important as these other things and are missed so often. And basically, the circadian rhythms of like we're talking about is what we eat and when we eat and when we do our activity. But in my thought of everything, and I don't hear other teachers talk about this often, it's the missing key, and it is getting out and getting sun exposure every day. And it's essential, and so many people do not do it enough. I didn't do it enough for years until I figured it out. It's essential. So when you talk about vitamin D, we hear, "Oh, get out and get some vitamin D." It goes way beyond just vitamin D, what we're getting from the sun. And the more we could get the sun exposed onto our skin, it's proven now. The ultraviolet rays that we're told away to stay away from midday because they can create cancer. It's proven now that the morning rays and the infrared rays in the morning when the sun is at its lowest and when the sun sets, those infrared are important for certain things, but the midday violet ultraviolet rays of the sun uh, permeate into our skin beyond ever imagined. It even goes through the body and completely has this amazing healing effect, as you were talking about earlier with plants and how they get the sun's energy.
Yeah.
And uh, I think people are deficient of being in the sunlight, and because of that, they're thrown off. Circadian rhythm is thrown off. But vitamin D is what I wanted to talk to you. Well, first, that's the big thing. That to me, that's what I've learned more than anything else, besides these other common things, is people are deficient
Right.
in getting outside. Now, vitamin D, this is a well, first, well, before we even get to the vitamin D in closing, talk about what I just said about the sun, and then I want to ask you specifically about vitamin D. But talk of what has your research been with getting out in the sun? Because myself, I've neglected it over the years. Most people say,
Yeah.
well, if you live in the tropics, you don't have to worry. I find that a big problem because up north, people don't go out during the daytime because it's too cold. But down south, most people don't go outside because it's too hot. What's your
Yeah.
experience?
Yeah. And that's interesting because I look at vitamin D levels. From New York to Thailand, and they're all they're all low. Yeah, everybody's low. But exactly what you're just saying, circadian rhythm, is our relationship with the earth and the sun, right? And the rhythm. We're in that rhythm, and by the way, that's the rhythm we need. So um, and then that's why sleep and sun, we got to put them together. There's two S's. So if you go to sleep early, you're going to get the appropriate number of 90-minute cycles of restoration and dreams. And you're going to wake up. Wow. Okay. So because cortisol starts to rise about midnight. All right. And now, one of the things people have trouble sleeping with is cortisol is high at night because what happens is they kind of get their circadian clock turned around. So they've got a lower one in the morning and then it's higher at night. And that's keeping them awake. And so I have got in my fasting book that's I just finished. It's got a little thing on there on a simple little way to correct that. But there's a couple of ones to do. One is you go to sleep early, you wake up early, and you go outside. 30 minutes, you got to get outside in the sunlight. The morning light, we have receptors in our retinas that are non visual. They don't go to the optic nerve to our occipital lobe. They go to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which controls our circadian rhythm with the pineal gland. All right, they go there and they tell our brain how much sun we're going to get out today, which determines how much melanin to produce. And I mean, it's crazy, but the morning light will reset your circadian rhythm. It will help. So the light you get in the morning will determine the kind of sleep you get that night and how much melatonin you're going to produce. So it's essential. And then the midday, we talk about blue light. Yeah, blue light's not good at night, but we need it during the day. It's part of the spectrum. There's nothing that God made that we don't need. I mean, from a health, a reasonable life. But so we need that. We need that sun exposure. What we don't need, what people that talk say the sun is bad. Yeah, if you go out and you lie in the sun and get burnt, that's not very smart.
Well, the amount of
That's not.
time, I mean, 15 minutes, 20 minutes
Yeah,
should be the limit. If you stay out there in the sun midday for 2 hours or an hour, then that's not you're almost getting the opposite effect of it, and you're
yeah,
not
yeah. You're
getting
getting an inflammation. It's inflammation. Yeah, yeah. So, but the morning light, the 30, and you can stay out longer in the morning light, and that's a good time to do walking. Just do some nice brisk walking or whatever, and try to wear like shorts if you're a woman. You can wear a halt, whatever they are, and get as much of your body exposed, and just be out there in the morning. So that's the other thing. We talk about this often. We're not outside enough.
exactly.
And that's get outside, get that sun, get that air, put your feet on the ground. But yes, I 100%, Paul.
So, I want about the sleeping and putting the feet on the ground, two things, and then vitamin D. So the sleeping, 7 or 8 hours a night sleep, they say is what a person should get. But in my opinion, they're basing that on the average unhealthy person in this world. Just like if you take a blood test, the numbers are going to be different, but they came up with their ranges on all the unhealthy people that they've looked at. So the same thing with sleep. So somebody who is healthy, which hasn't been studied, there's no known average because this is the average of an unhealthy person, 7 or 8 hours. Does that make
Exactly.
sense to you?
No, no, and it's true, and I've personally experienced it, and I know the science. Here's how it is: there's two kinds of sleep: restorative sleep and dream sleep. Okay, so our 90-minute cycles are predominantly restorative sleep with a minimal, let's say, forget 80-20 before around 1 a.m. And then at that time it turns around and that's the opposite. It's predominantly REM, rapid eye movement, dream sleep, and then small amount. So you go to bed at 11, you might get one cycle maybe of restorative sleep, but you're going to get a lot of dream sleep. So when you wake up, so you slept 11 to 7, you had 8 hours. You don't hate everybody because you had a lot of dreams, but you didn't restore your body from the day before. So it's not just hours. What it really is when did you go to sleep? Now, remember that restorative sleep is restoring worn out and damaged tissue. If you're healthy, you're eating. When I was 100% raw, I didn't need as much sleep. I didn't need as much restorative sleep because I wasn't that damaged. So the more damaged you are, the more you need to do that. So there is the science, the biology behind why you don't need as much sleep, but you do need to listen. In the natural world, 8,000 years ago, an hour after the sunlight, what are you going to do? A sunset, you're going to go to
Sure,
sleep.
sure. Which is so interesting because I have a tracker now and I track my sleep, and I'm part of a study now because I want to dig into this deeper. I get so much REM sleep, but I don't get much restorative sleep, and so my number doesn't come out well. And I could look at it and say, well, I need to improve some, but I also think, well, maybe because of the way my lifestyle is, I don't need that much restorative sleep. So a person that gets a good amount of restorative sleep, they might not be living the best healthy lifestyle where they need that much restorative sleep. I'm looking more into this, but I'm maybe I'm trying to justify my low number, but this is how I'm looking into it.
No, 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 no. That's exactly right. And the person that doesn't have a healthy lifestyle, get that restorative sleep at least. At least do that because it'll undo. It'll correct. Some of the excess there. But no, that's and that's true. You don't need as much restorative sleep. So going to bed, let's say you go to bed at well, here it's 12-hour days, 12-hour nights. So if it's sunset by 6:30, 6:40 here. So 7:30, 8 latest, you go to sleep. You're going to wake up naturally around 3:34, which they call the holy hours in every religion. All the
Yeah,
monks or
yeah.
priests, whatever it is, are up. And it's the holy hours, and that's the time, and especially here, that's the time to get up. And if you had work to do, I'm telling you, 1 hour in the morning is worth 5 hours at night because your mind is fresh. So I got to stay up and do that. No, do it in the morning. So,
So
but anyway,
yeah, yeah. I don't want to cut you off.
no, I'm done. That was
So
it.
the other thing is grounding. You spoke about walking barefoot on the ground. I heard recently that just as good as doing that, like if you live in a city or something, is a tree gets the same energy from that ground. So if you hug a tree or even put your hand, if you put your palm on a tree, it's like walking barefoot on the ground, which is
Yeah.
something that I hadn't heard before. But have you heard that before?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because what we're getting is, this uh there's something called the photoelectric effect. Yeah, that's what Einstein got the Nobel Prize for, not for relativity. Anyway, the light photons hits something and it turns it into electrons, and that's how biology works, right? So anyway, um, the Earth is getting bombarded by photons, and it's just beaming with electrons. When you step on the Earth, these electrons come in, and that what does that do? It neutralizes all your free radicals. If you were on a phone and a computer, you're neutralized now. Same thing from a tree. The tree's growing out of it. It's full of those electrons. It'd be better if you could hug it with at least no short sleeve shirt. At least, but do that, right? The same thing we get from petting an animal, hugging another person. We get the same kind because they're full of electrons. In fact, I'm gonna tell you something. How do you know when a hug is finished? Okay. You know when a hug is finished without any words. You're hugging someone. What happens is the one with the most electrons will flow into the other one. And when you're equilibrated, it's done. So think about it. A little child's outside, they injured themselves. They come crying to mama. Oh, mama hugs them for a little while and I'm okay. And they run out again. They needed that thing. So hugging is exchanging and neutralizing our electrons. But we get it from the earth. So that's very true, Paul. Is if you're in the city, get near a tree, go to a park, and yeah.
And you don't necessarily need to hug the tree. Is even if your palms of your hands on the tree is from what I heard. It's just like the sole of
Yeah.
your foot hitting the ground. So you don't have to
Climate.
like lay on the ground and hug the ground. You could just it's the sole of your foot or the sole of the palm of your hands.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Exactly.
so last thing is because I know you gotta get going is if a person is truly getting consistent time outside, which most people are deficient in, most people spend way too much time inside. It's estimated more than 90% of the time is spent inside, and it's creating many,
Yeah.
many problems with the lighting and everything else. But if a person truly is getting enough time outside, do you think that person would still need vitamin D? I know ultimately a test would reveal if somebody truly needs it or not, but is it less likely a person would need if they're truly getting outside? Can they get enough from just the sun?
In the right latitude. There are latitudes where it doesn't even at noon you're not going to get it. Like New York. Like, they're just too high. So you need to be in a lower latitude, and then you'll get it and I think there are even charts you can find right on the internet where you live, what times of the year you'll get the appropriate intensity to generate vitamin D. It's really, but yes, that's it. If you're in the right air, if you're in the right latitude, yes, being outside, you don't need to take vitamin D supplements. But if you're not, if you're living in Scotland, you got to, it doesn't matter.
Ultimately, the best way is to get outside consistently as much as possible, get tested, and you'll know if it's working for you or if not.
You'll know.
Then if you're already doing too much to get in the sun and you're not getting enough, then there's where supplement comes in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the raw life health. Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the raw life health show.